best-selling entrepreneur, activist, and author of the critically acclaimed The Bold World, a memoir of family and transformation. Both are super successful creatives and unapologetic individualists who, as you just heard, like Black Enterprise, are turning 50 this year. And let me just tell you, 50 never looked so good or owned its power like these two women do, and they just happen to truly be truest of girlfriends. So please give a warm welcome to Mara Brock Akil and Jody Patterson.
What a beautiful room.
Hello. Hi,
Hello,
girls.
hello,
Hi.
hello.
I'm going to put my book back. Okay.
Woo,
Welcome.
That was good, thank you. Nice to be here. Hello, everybody, good morning.
Good morning. Mara walked in the room this morning, and they were both here yesterday for lunch. Jody's been here since Legacy Night, but Mara came in this morning, and she kind of stopped, and she looked, she was like, wow, I didn't really look yesterday. This is amazing.
It's a beautiful room. It's very powerful. Just the presence, just the image. I guess working in images, I mean, this is a powerful image that I am going to put in my cup. So, good morning.
So we'll see ourselves in her next thing.
I can't afford all these extras.
We'll work for free.
Yeah.
We'll volunteer. You know, we've been talking, we were all here yesterday for Felicia Rashad's lunch. And it had a really powerful impact. And she echoed a lot of the things that we had said we were going to talk about today in discussing career versus everything, right? So one of the things is seeing your work as an act of service, which is very resonant with AARP's mission. Their motto is to serve or be served. And I know both of you really view your work as acts of service. So Jody, can you start out, just tell us about your work and how you view it in that way.
Service is so important. I mean, I grew up understanding it. I grew up raised by activists, raised by civil rights activists, raised by change makers, understanding that the collective we is much stronger than the I. My grandmother was dubbed Ms. Revolution in the South for changing laws and suing school boards and suing hospitals and changing the laws. My uncle is Gil Scott-Heron, who wrote The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. So I know, I understand, we grew up on service to others. And then somewhere, when I had 5 children and I was navigating life, I wasn't really thinking service. I was thinking, let me chop the garlic, let me saute the vegetables, let me get the kids to school on time. But it wasn't until, and at the time I was in the beauty industry, and it wasn't until my 3rd of 5 children said to me, Mama, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy, that I had to put the idea of service to work. Because service to me is when you do something for, it's perhaps not easy to do, perhaps it doesn't serve you, perhaps it doesn't answer your questions, but it is for someone else who needs it, for a greater good. And when my child revealed to me that he's transgender, it wasn't something I understood. Being Southern, being Black, being 50. But the service was to keep my son alive. The service was to speak for my son. The service was to allow my child to live in this world, past 3, 4, 5 years old. So now he's 12, and that service has become a larger service. Now I'm the chairman of the board of the Human Rights Campaign Foundation, which is our largest LGBT organization. And I've written a book on gender, I've written a book on race, I've written a book on identity, because my service is to share what I now know, which was very confusing to me before. And I still haven't figured it fully out, but I do know the service is to keep our children alive and to meet them where they are and to raise our children. So it has really changed my life, this idea of service when it doesn't seem possible. You know, service when it doesn't serve you personally. That, for me, is the deepest sense of service.
Yeah, and if you have not read The Bold World, you really have to read it. It's a magnificent book, truly. So Mara, We are all so familiar with your work, but of course, our vantage point on it and yours, entirely different. How do you see your work? How do you come to it? Why do you present it the way you do? And how do you view it as an act of service?
It started very simple about what do you want to be when you grow up. You just had to sort of just get the practical parts of what do you want to be. And when I identified writer, I always chose the best for myself, or what I believe was the best. So I just kept, and I share that point because I was raised to want the best for myself. And I realize, as we even talk about being 50, and I think about and reflecting on being 50, we are the generation, we are the first generation to have our full rights as citizens. And what you realize is a lot of the generation before, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, a lot of their dreams are packed into us who are 50, who 1970, I was born. We, right after, the civil rights movement, we are the first to be the pioneers of that line. So we were the first ones to hit the many, many landscapes. In my family, teaching, and a lot of our history as Black women, teaching service is a part of who we are as a legacy. So I'm now with The World Is Mine. We made it so for you, go. We've been on the front lines of that. So when it was so, okay, what do I want to be? I want to be a writer. We want the best for you. We sacrifice, we save money so you can go to these schools, go get the best and put yourself in there. So my first act of service was to honor the money, the time, the dream for me by others who did not have the chance to have that dream, to make clear that we could be more than secretaries or teachers, or what was afforded to us. You'll see that in my work with Being Mary Jane. A lot of the show could have been called Being Helen Jr. because
Is that your mom?
yeah, well, it's my grandmother's name, but in the show, Being Mary Jane and her mother, that relationship is the idea about packing those things in. But anyway, of service was service first to my family. The second level of service was once I got, say, girlfriends, it was about being the service to Black excellence. These things that are packed into us as our existence. And then there was the aha moment that, wait a minute, by being brave, that I was raised to not only to see and experience, but taught to be brave, when it was time to hire certain people, Black women, it's so funny, there's these quotas out in our industry. Oh, the shows that have Black directors or Black people behind the camera. I didn't need a quota to make, literally there was one moment that my husband and I, we were the only ones holding down a lot of the Black job force in Black Hollywood. A lot of firsts have come through our door as a result of being raised to know that, of course, we are the best, that we come from that pool. So I didn't need anyone to tell me to go look for that. But at the time, I remember, so first of service to my family, service to excellence, and then there was that moment in the power position that I realized jobs. One of my proudest moments, and I'm gonna get to my work in a moment, my artistry, but holding the power seat, how many jobs of families that I have affected by being true to how I was raised and how the Black community is of always excellence. Jobs, colleges, health scares. Sometimes I'm motivated to get out of the bed every morning knowing how many jobs and families I am keeping intact. And then when I look at the industry, when you see and also the door that was left open to the people the paying forward, the people who put me in the position to help me, Ralph Farquhar, Sarah Finney Johnson, Vita Spears, paying it back. Now you have Kenya Barris and Blackish and all of those, that you have the Ish Empire. You have Prentice Penny, who's running Insecure because he first came through me. Karen Gist, who just did Mixage. All of those I'm proud of that service back to who we are, to my art. I serve the portraits that I do. When I looked at the landscape of television at the time, Sex and the City was huge, and they were on the front line of talking about the complexity of women. And we weren't even extras in Sex and the City. We couldn't even have a visibility of, and you're in New York, like we're on the block all the time. Like, so I was like, okay, but instead for me, I was also taught, and I know in this room we know this, we don't complain, we just get to it. And so I got to it. I got my paintbrush, meaning my pencil, out to start painting our portraits of our humanity. And I knew that painting our portraits not only would allow for me to see myself, but to be seen is the most human experience. That's what we're searching for in our relationships, of love, of friendship, of everything, to be seen, to be understood, so I've been really painting portraits. They're called Joan, Maya, Tony, Lynn, Tasha, Melanie, Kelly, Mary Jane, Nuri, Kara. They're called, I've just been painting portraits. Yeah. And to be of service through my art, which is the gift, jobs, and also of service here today. It is easier for me, quite honestly, to sit behind my computer, be of service of friendship. When you asked, I think sometimes to show up is of service and just to give my best. So I'm here today to give my best to you, and I hope that God will use me, which is part of my prayer, to offer something that will ignite anybody's spirit to be themselves.
Well, I do appreciate that it would have been easier to say no than yes. So we're very, very glad that you both came. You know, one of the things that you brought this up, many of your shows are really about what we're here to talk about today, which is career versus everything, right? As women, there are our careers and the things we're taught to control the things that we can control. And I think we all think, well, okay, I can always work. I can work, but then there's all the other stuff that comes with work that we can't control, and there's all the other stuff that has really nothing to do with work, that has to do with us and our souls and what we really want, that we also largely feel we can't control. So I think, you know, the room kind of stopped yesterday when a young woman got up and asked Felicia a question about divorce.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about a lot of things at the summit, and we don't spend a lot of time talking about a lot of other things. But you could feel the room change. And you could feel that woman's pain. And we all have our own stories with relationships. And so I'm curious to know, because you're both moms, you've both been wives, you are a wife, and you have been a wife twice. Jodie's grandmother was a wife 5 times. So she comes from a long line of multi-wives. Right.
Women who cannot be stopped.
Yes, women who can't be stopped.
You just
and
go.
What is that thing you said your grandmother said about work and men?
My grandmother, I was crying over my first marriage, and I remember it vividly. I was crossing the Brooklyn Bridge, and I was driving and crying, and my grandmother, we were calling each other, and she said, Jody, there are so many jobs in life, and there are so many men in life. Never cry over either. They're just there. They are out there. You will find them. They will find you. Never cry over either. And I thought that was such a relief, because the thing that we worry about, will we find a career that suits us? Will we find a partner, male or female, or what will we find? And she just said, absolutely. You can take that off the plate. They're there. Right. And it put the relief was right in that moment. Okay, just get to the business of finding out who this person is. Right. And those other things will come.
Right, and what Phylicia Rashad, you know, ultimately, she talked about the pain, right? Which I think we often don't articulate those realities, whether we're in relationship or not. We've all cried over work and men and relationships with whomever they are with. But, you know, the idea that self-awareness, right? She kept elevating this thing about self and self-awareness, and that being the true frontier. So much of what you write about talks about the tension between relationship and work for women, between, you know, the other desires we have and career for women. And you've reinvented yourself a million times. So how do you, obviously this plays a lot in your head.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you think about the core question in Girlfriends, and at the time it was launched, I was writing it in 1999. It premiered in 2000, and where we were as women, we were grappling with the question of, can we have it all? And Joan sat at the center of that question. It was also Mara asking, can she have it all? So if you want to know where I'm at in my therapy, you just look at my shows. But although I just went to therapy, and I think we're going to get to that. But the point is, I made time for it. But my most recent work that I'm proud, I was going to bring Mary Jane. Mary Jane was an exploration of us, and thus me. I think sometimes, I think to love someone, we have to figure out how to be. James Baldwin has a great quote that I can't rattle off right now, but it basically talks about, if I love you, I have to be honest with you. And so I was trying to be honest with myself and with my sisters, us, that we were carrying this banner of, if it ain't for me, I'm holding it up, I'm doing everything. I'm holding up the family, I'm holding up the job, I'm holding up the department, the friendship, this love. And some of that is true, but some of it is our attachment to that idea of ourself to keep avoiding ourselves. If I can fix everybody, but have you fixed you? And
well,
so
you talk about the lies we tell ourselves all the time, right?
Yes, and so Being Mary Jane was an exploration of, we women are liars. I said it, yep, I said it. We are liars. And on one hand, I want to compliment us because those lies, actually from the generations before us, were a part of our survival. And I think we really have to I think this generation, we can be the tipping point, and the millennials and what are the Z's next, that y'all can take it over, but we have to start telling the truth, because the lies are going to start choking us to death. Literally. They're going to choke us to death if we don't get real and start breaking through. And you're seeing that. But we could lead it even better with more honest conversations, sharing through the generations about what's really going on, and don't let our millennials and the generation later find out later in life what the truth is. We can give them information now to source, but we are liars, and we're at the tipping point where the lies are going to start choking us and killing us. Loss, and then we're going to have to learn from loss as opposed to learning through honesty. I think it's time to be honest. So I was starting to, even in the game, I wrote an episode called Side Part Under, because I noticed, even as Black women, we were going to the salon every week diligently, and we were doing the same hairstyle over and over. And it was like, I just wanted to free us. Jody uses the word untether a lot. I wanted just to untether us even from our choices about how to wear our hair. I mean, even and then I hadn't changed. I was attached to my curly hair. Like, I hadn't done, just exploring, giving ourselves the freedom to say, because I remember the weave was very much of a conversation about actually making us feel bad about ourselves. And we are women who could do so many different things with our hair and embrace who we are. Like, the lie is, no, it ain't no lie. This is not my hair. It's my hair because I paid for it. But and tomorrow it's going to be something else. And keep up, basically. Like, and that freedom, like that, let go of even that kind of idea of who we are. But then there's the larger ideas about what is love. And why did I get in this marriage? Am I the same person I was in that marriage? Can we get honest in this marriage to maybe save this marriage?
And the reality is, we're not the same woman from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And Mara and I were having dinner one night, and she said, girl, we are liars. Women are liars. And this was several years ago, and I leaned in. I mean, I'd thought about it before, but the way you said it was very inviting. It opened it up for conversation, and I think we really need to explore that, because when we're talking about the lies that we say, that we tell as women, many of those lies are keeping families together. They're keeping companies together. They're keeping the society together. So they are instrumental in the way we live. And when we stop telling the lie, for example, when you stop lying about yourself, for a long time, I was lying and playing the supporting character in my relationship. But the reality is I'm much more of a lead character in my relationship. But I was downplaying myself to hold this marriage together, to hold this unity together. And it served me well for a while. I have 5 beautiful children. I've had experiences that came with that marriage. But after a while, you talk about choking, it's tiring to continue to lie. To say, that you are something else, because you have to remember the lie and uphold the lie and serve the lie. And I got to the point where I just wanted to lead my family. I wanted to write books. I wanted to, sit on the board for the Human Rights Campaign. I couldn't do that if I was practicing the lie of being second best.
Well, so, Felicia talked about this with her mother yesterday, and I thought of both of you, because as creatives, where you're not necessarily walking out the door every morning at 6 to get to the office to do, you have a sort of more dynamic reality in your daily work life. She mentioned her mother would say, like, I don't want to hear the word mom before 7 a.m. because that's my writing time. Right. And I saw you whip out your phone and you were like, okay, I'm taking notes. There were a few of those. But how do you, I think we all have our passions, our priorities, the things we want to do, and it's that struggle of how do we fit the pieces together. We don't even talk about, having it all really in balance anymore, but how do you navigate the space so that you just feel good? I mean, at the end of the day, so that you can sustain yourself. How do you all protect your creative lives, as Felicia's mother did?
Learn to say no. I mean, that was the first thing. When I wish I had learned to say no earlier, because I would have gotten a lot more things. And I said yes so often to my children, to my husbands, to my folks that needed me. And they were powerful yeses because I wanted to be of service. But to learn, to practice to say no gives you hours more to yourself. And then when you say hell no, it gives you 20 hours to yourself. And so when I learned to say no to things, what I received was, she's such a bitch. But that word to me is just a woman who says no. And we have to really practice that. Sometimes it's clumsy in the beginning when we start practicing our no's, and then we get into a more graceful period where we can say no, thank you. But you have to carve out the time. Well, you have to carve out the time to do the 10 hours of investigation of yourself, to do the hours of writing, or to do the hours of, just reading a book.
Yeah.
These are spaces where we find ourselves.
Well, I was going to say, Jody, and you know this, you're super intentional about word choice. Yeah. And you have shaped your family largely by being that way. So Jody at home tells her family she's the king. And her children say, no, you're the queen. And she says, no, I'm the king. And this is even when you were married and your husband was there in the house. You're like, no, I'm the king.
On the marriage.
and you tell your children they're the prototype. I love that you tell your children they are the prototype. You have a trans child, and it's that thing of building your child to protect them, to keep them safe in a world that is not kind.
We have to be radical with our words. If the world is telling our black children they are not typical, they're not normal, they're not the center, then we have to tell them, you are the prototype. Our black children, our LGBT children. And I tell my kids, you're the prototype. You're the center of the center of the center. Everything revolves around you. I also say, I'm king, not over you, but over this woman, this brain, this womb, this body, sometimes this heart. But to say radical statements in your family, at the family dinner table, changes how they look at the world, changes how they enter spaces.
And at work.
Well, yeah, I want to go back to your question about carving out time, because that has been a journey for me. Because I've also modeled after the women before me and who don't, right? And I really welcome the question. So I have top tier, middle, and practical every day. The biggest thing I really want to promote solo travel. I know we can't because Corona is around, but even in your own city, even in your own, and I say it for a couple of reasons. One, the early 20-year-old of me wanted to go all over Italy, and I had this whole idea about what I wanted to do. I get married, I have kids, and I'm still trying to get a little bit of that girl's needs met. Long story short, things get a little tough and you need to have that reflection time. And I finally decided, it's funny, through a storm, when you decide to get wet, when you're just like, all right, rain on me. What do you want me to say? You get close to God. It's such a blessing. I don't really believe we are here to suffer. We are here to everything is a blessing, everything. And so I started practicing that really. And the thing that came up in my quiet moments was go. I went to Thailand for basically a month. And that solo travel trip was one of the best experiences of my life. But the journey began most the day or the week before, and I had to tell my children that I was going. My oldest, who's an old soul, he got it right away. It was the little one. And I was telling Nasir, who I was like, okay, and I'm reliving it right now. Like and I realized, what is this feeling? I had all this guilt to leave the family, and I thought, where did this come from? The lies we tell to ourselves, the obstacles we put in our own way. And I just decided to answer the question and show him. Felicia said this yesterday. I decided to show him who I am. I was going to hide behind work and say I had to go right, because I figured that out over some time. They'll leave me alone if I go right. But really, because they got to eat and they like the Nike. So I was like, okay, but that's not the truth. The truth is, I've been wanting to go from 25. I've been wanting to go, and I've never answered her call. Right. Never. And then he goes, you're going? I go, yeah. He goes, and he gave me that look that felt like judgment. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go. And I was about to say, okay, I'll just do a week. But I had it planned for a little over 3 weeks. And he goes, for how long? And I said, 3 weeks. He goes, 3 weeks? And I was like, yes. And he goes, why? And the voice, and the voice said, tell him. And I said, because I'm an artist. And I need to go and fill my cup up. I'm also a traveler who likes to go and do things, and you guys never like to go and do things. And also, honestly, I'm starting to go, and then he went, oh, okay, can I go play video games? And when he left the room, tears streamed down my face, and it was almost the voice that, see, he loves you. They want the best. We don't tell our children or the people we love. They actually want the best for us, but we present it in guilt. We present it in something that's not good for us. So they're going to tell us, don't go. They're going to tell us, stay home. They're going to tell us that's not safe. And when I said, no, I want that, next thing was time to pick my car, because my lease came up, and I said, well, I really want this dream car, which is a 2-seater, or I'm just going to get a Subaru. And he was like, what? I said, because I don't want to do the Range Rover anymore. I don't know. And I said, so I'm at that point. I either want what I want or whatever. And he goes, Mom, same kid, after the trip, he goes, Mom, you are not driving a Subaru. And I said, why not? He goes, Mom, you get the dream car.
Because you're an artist.
Because you're an artist. But my point I'm saying is, by just showing myself that they want the best for you, so it's returned to me. Yeah. All I'm trying to say is that it returns to you. Mm-hmm. When you carve space for yourself, it returns to you. So now the next trip, they're like, cool. The only question they have recently was Corona. The second thing I do is hike. If any writers or wannabe writers or writers, I really suggest, when you're in service to your work, to go on a walk. A lot of your problems are solved on the walk. It's just natural. And a lot of writers say that. That's just a tidbit. It also is exercise, and it also is time alone. Secondly, if you only have time for 5 minutes a day, sit and learn how to, either you can call it thought watching or meditation. So you can learn to hear the difference between chatter, to-do lists, and understand when the voice, our authentic self, that self that we watched Felicia in real time go access. You know the difference between the self voice and the chatter voice. So we know when to move, when to carve out, and so I would say those 3 things.
Yeah. I know that a lot of that trip for you was also sparked by you felt 50 coming, right? It was like, I am right there, and I'm not going to go there without going to Thailand and doing this for yourself. How much of this particular juncture in your life, I know you've both been very intentional about it, but I feel like you've both been very intentional all along. Is this moment different, or well, I know it's different, but is it different from the previous moments? Like, when you think think back, we have women in the room from 20s on through, past us. The arcs, the pivot points, the moments that were particularly key, like this one. Were there other ones? Where were they for you?
I think we talk about this a lot, where a big part of my life I was sleeping through it, not fully awake. And I don't know if that is a description that people can understand, but when you're just not fully present, you don't know how to connect the dots, the career is not exactly how you want it to develop, the marriage, and I think I wasn't fully seeing the world, people, myself.
And just say you did a lot of things. You did corporate,
I did corporate.
Entrepreneur, you've been through all the iterations.
So it was like
I've worked in fashion, I've worked in music, I've worked in nightlife, I own a nightclub, I've done a lot of work. I've always worked. Started my own businesses, sold them. So I've experienced life, but I was doing it with eyes half open and heart half open. And so when you talk about what's different now, at some point, there's a break. At some point, there's going to be something in life that just says, you know what, it's not working. Try something different. And that, for me, came when my child said, I'm not who you think I am. And I had no language for that, and I had no experience for that, and I had nothing to pull on, and I thought, well, I could toss out the kid, because the kid's not making sense in this world, or I can flip the world upside down and try to make new sense of it. So since from 40 on, I've been trying to see the world differently, trying to experience it differently, trying to reduce or eliminate the confines. I know it sounds very educational and academic, but it took form in every part of my life. Let's just see if we flip this upside down, what could be different. So 50 for me is much different. It's much more eyes wide open. It's much more exploratory. It's less lying about myself, to myself. It is sometimes doing things that are not what a 50-year-old mom would do. Traveling alone, sitting at a bar, reading a book by myself on a Wednesday night.
I love it. Oh my God.
Dating, having the courage to say, no, this marriage isn't working. That came once I decided that the world that I knew was not 100% correct. There's some good things in this world, but it wasn't 100% correct, so why not explore it and mix it up?
50 for me, it's interesting because in 20s and 30, I was very afraid of 50 because at that time the messaging was you get put out to pasture. So I think in my 20s and 30s and 40s, I was so driven to get to these dreams that I have, these goals that I have in my career and my family. I'm trying to do it all, have it all. And then leading up to 50, and I have to make note of this for my mother, who's a numerologist, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But leading up to 50, and I hear people like, oh, you have an amazing career. And inside, the truth I tell myself is, at first I'd be like, yeah, I do. And I do, grateful. But the thing inside says, baby, we're just beginning. We have so much work to do.
Just beginning.
I feel like I'm just beginning. And I recently said publicly, and it's true, I really have accomplished a lot by playing small. You guys haven't even seen me play big. And so 50 was an urgency to start telling the truth, start getting to it, start getting to the things that I want to do, even solo travel. I remember when I was on my honeymoon, 21 years ago, I remember this, I think he was in his 70s or 75, and he goes, oh, this is great. He goes, but if you can travel younger, it's better. And I remembered that.
Oh.
And so while my body is physically strong and healthy, I want to see more of the world and do of that. So so the urgency had got there. 50 made me get real about stuff. So it made me get real, and so it made me goal set more clearly and have those hard conversations I was trying to tap dance around and get straight to it with the family, with my husband, with my representation, all of those sort of things. 50 also, I think, graying my hair, allowing my hair to go gray was a practical thing, in that I just didn't have the time to keep running back and forth it was popping up and I was public, and I was the lie again, do I have to look great and all that sort of stuff. I just cut out the time driving to, sitting under, time, money became a practical thing, and then I just accepted who I was, and it's led me on this journey. I have never played with my hair. I've never done makeup before. I was so busy about getting to the work. I'm now enjoying my nails, my hair, changing it up, doing all this stuff, and I'm enjoying that. I think 50, also I want to say this about 50. My mother is a numerologist on the side. She's brilliant at everything, but one of the things she does is numerology. I want to say this, 50, 40, 30 is actually the end to something. It's not the beginning. And I think, that really helped me, because I think at 49 I started preparing, and when she reminded me of that, I now am being more intentional about, okay, how do I want to celebrate 50? And typically, even I'm guilty of as a storyteller, we celebrate it with events, faraway travel, these are kind of things. And I really realized 50, I want to be by myself on 50. I want to really then begin that year-long meditation into the celebration. So I think I'm going to celebrate at 51, some destination thing, and hopefully Corona will be okay by then. But I say that those sort of things make you sort of really sort of get to, and being grateful for what 40s was. Any relationship with, I think too, my relationship to my 40s, I want to thank that time. And I want to use 50 this year to start to thank that time and take out the good and leave the rest and prepare for a fresh canvas for that. So that would be 50 for me.
If we have any questions, you can go to the mic. I just want to say, this is sort of the quintessential question, but given that it is BE's 50th, your 50th, what would you say to your younger self, given the chance? What would you save her from that you went through?
That's a big question. I mean, I think I would, time for me is really so important. We want things to happen quick. You think 30 is old and you want to have success in 30, you want to have it all figured out. I would just tell myself to investigate as much as possible, move around as much as possible, travel as much as possible, allow yourself to become 50, to earn the knowledge. I would also say make friends that are 20 years older and 20 years younger. I mean, I have some of my best friends are in their 70s, I'm 50, and they give me that perspective. And then some of my really good friends are 20, and I get that spontaneity from keep our friend groups dynamic, have your sister girlfriends close by, and then allow time to play out. Don't rush to getting something, just become. I mean, there's a whole idea about becoming. And I would have never known I would have been this 50-year-old. Never. I would have never guessed that in 2 separations and 5 children and lots of betrayal and heartbreak that I would have the life that I have. And that is through time and experience.
It's funny, I have this thing, it's very similar to what Jody's saying. I coined it as beautifully efficient. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. I have another one.
Powerfully pretty.
Oh shucks, I forgot it. It's coming.
It's in the basket of cherries.
It's 50, but no, but
You want us to ask a question and come back?
No, I have it. The concept is, I really want to tell, and we should make room and space as a point of progress and evolution, and that we would tell our 20-year-olds, male and female, to experience life, like to go out, beautifully selfish. I was like, where is it? Okay, to be beautifully selfish, actually. To go out into the world and bump into yourself, to carve yourself out, not to be in a rush to an idea that someone else planted for you, but go discover it. I think that if there's, like, for instance, if you want to go eat at the Korean restaurant you read about in wherever you read about it, and nobody in your friend circle or the guy you're dating or the girl you're dating wants to go.
They don't want to go?
Go by yourself.
Get up and go. Do it.
Go by yourself. I remember one time saying, and I say this especially, I don't want another young woman, when her date asks her, where do you want to go? And then she says, I don't know, where do you want to go? I don't want another young woman to ever say that. Because what's problematic to that is we set up a wrong dynamic that there's a time where it's egalitarian and someone's saying, hey, where do you want to go? And we keep giving the power to someone else. We get to learn about what they like, and they never get to learn about what we like. And then we marry them or we date them we give up to 5 years of our life, and then we get resentful because you don't ever do what I want to do. But you never told them who you were. You never even told them.
Right,
you were trying to appease them. You were trying to please them.
Right.
And you're not pleasing yourself. So I'm saying if we can make room for young people, if we could tell them, go, figure it out. A lot of times, let's hold on to our babies. Let's hold on to our babies. We should be helping them identify the best aspects of who they are and guide them to the safest places that they can go be more of who they are, but let them bump into yourself. Go. That would be my thing.
Yeah. And for the single ladies, Jodie's ultimate single date tip is go to the Korean restaurant alone, sit at the bar with a James Baldwin book, and it will attract all the right sorts of potential relationships.
If they don't know who James Baldwin is, no.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
If they don't know who James Baldwin is, you're like, check, gotta go.
And also, it's also the time in your life. Think about it, one more thing. Prior to their 20s, your whole life has to be through the lens of your parents or your family, right? When you give your heart away, and if it's more official through marriage or whatever, everything has to be through the lens of answering to just even your safety, your whereabouts, to someone else. You have to think about other people. We need to create a society that we allow true freedom, and I think it's in the 20s to early 30s, if we would just encourage young people to be themselves, to be beautifully selfish. What will we get back as a society? We will get the best human beings to actually lead us in all of the trauma we are unpacking right now, and we wait to 50, and then you're too sick and tired to deal with what you got to deal with, so you pass it on to the next generation. We have to halt it and say, give these kids freedom to figure out who they are sexually, gender, what they want in career, what they want, until we as a society can even selfishly get it back. Okay, stop.
So we're all writers, and we've been very wordy up here today.
Sorry.
So we're sorry. We have time for exactly 2 questions, and we have to be very, very, very
Jody will
fast
answer them.
in answering them. I'm so sorry. Okay, first question.
Hi, my name is Keisha Mack. I'm a psychologist from Washington, D.C., also turning 50 this year.
All right.
You talked about, telling the lie. I think it's important to give tools to Black women of how you manage to not fall apart after you stop telling the lie. You mentioned therapy. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
I think we do fall apart a little bit.
Fall apart.
Yeah.
Cry. I think sometimes cry. Speak. Journaling. Our safest place probably is between you and that private journal. I cannot express journaling. Don't edit yourself. Don't stop and erase and overthink. A free write, literally a real practical practice in the morning when I try to do the thought watching. I ask to access, I've started to separate, I've learned to realize that the me is a spirit inside. My body is my best friend. We tend to only identify with this. And now just separating the 2 ideas of me, meaning me is the spirit inside. My body is the car that my spirit drives around in, so it's technically my best friend. So when I sit to meditate, I ask to talk to her. I sit, after that, I journal everything that's in that. It helps me learn the voice, to self-therapize, and then I take some of those thoughts to a professional who can help hear. I also exercise. I really do think it's important to exercise. The endorphins, what that does to your body, I cannot stress that enough. And have really good people around you to help you hear yourself. I think and stop lying. Don't surround yourself with people who are going to tell you the lie too. So try to get to people who are going to be honest. And I have to take breaths when I talk to her sometimes.
I think one of the biggest things to help you get through a hurdle or a ditch is to tell the story out loud to someone else. Because as soon as I started, one of the first dinners or lunches that Mara and I had, we both talked about something. I don't know why we did, but we brought up a trauma. She brought up a trauma, and I said I had that trauma too. And you share that story, and it tells you that your story is universal, and then you have someone that you can work through the story with and get to the other side with. We keep these secrets so tight, so we got to tell the story not only to a therapist, but to a woman. I guarantee you, so much of what you're going through, that failure, that sickness, that loss, is something that one of your sisters is going through. Share your story with your sister.
Well, Toni Morrison says you are your own best thing.
Oh.
You both are your own best thing at every age. We wish you happy birthday, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you.
I wish we had time for more. Oh.
Thank you. Oh, right. We were supposed to do it. Oh.
Okay. I have a few housekeeping notes, of course, as usual. Thank you for waiting for them. The sessions, I promise, will not start until you get there. 5 of you lucky ladies are about to win a prize for using hashtag BEWPS on social media. So please give me just a moment before you depart. Be sure to return here to the ballroom at 1:15 for our power brunch hosted by Accenture, and please do have your badges to get in. As a special 50th anniversary tribute, we will celebrate the legends who have transformed every facet of global businesses over the last half century. And as a reminder, again, please do have your registration. Learn how, where, and why to invest in other Black women at our Sisters Inc. panel session, Be a Real Angel, How to Invest in Black Women's Businesses, hosted by Morgan Stanley. That will be in Montego at 11:45. Join the conversation on reimagining single life and relationships at 12 p.m. and on the challenges of Black women in leadership at 4 in the Pfizer Wellness Spa. It's not too late to elevate your style. Let a professional style coach and Macy's My Stylist help you to step up your fashion game and elevate your look to match your ambition, even in this dress, yes, if you would like to get that. Sign up at the registration desk to secure your place. And it is now time to reward those who have tweeted the most during your time here. One sec. Hi. Okay, let's try this again. It's now time to announce the winners of those who have tweeted the most during your time here. Southwest Airlines has generously provided 5 round-trip domestic airline tickets for 5 lucky ladies, and you can wait out the virus or whatever else is coming for us. So let's find out who you are. Chelsea at Chels_Jax. Are you in the room, Chelsea? Congratulations. 4 Ward Designs by Rhea at 4 Ward by. Is she here? Charlene at Rising Char. That's cute. I like that. And Joelle Crawford at CLS Next Coach. Okay, we see you. And finally, Noelle at No Doubt. Noelle, are you in here? No doubt we'll find you. We will. We'll find you. So congratulations, and by the way, Southwest randomly gifted 10 additional tickets to registrants during the week. So congratulations to those lucky winners too. You'll find out who you are. Enjoy your sessions, and please get there quickly, and we'll see you back here together at lunch.